I'm here, I'm just out talking to the sheriff.
Okay.
So you guys got your budget to propose to us?
Yes.
It's,
We have our operations on the top and then our enterprise on the bottom. Operations would be what you use to fund my salary and education stuff for the school. And then enterprise would be purchasing awards, retirement gifts. We do a lot of, like, you'll see in this little packet that we have, we do conservation poster contest with the schools, and that's a way for us to purchase prizes and things like that. And enterprise is where we keep all of our weed barrier sales, so how we purchase weed barrier. So those are two different funds, but they come together to help fund the actual conservation district. And normally we, in the past, we get a little bit of an increase from the state. Last year, we actually got a decrease. Right before the budget meeting last year, we were told we were supposed to get a very large increase, and then they took that back because of COVID. So they told us this year we're expecting a small increase, but after that, nothing. They'll probably start decreasing it because budget cuts. So we'll get one small increase and that's about it. But we never ask for more than 25,000 from you guys.
It's been that way as long as I can remember that I've been on the board. And,
Yeah. How were you guys able to make that big jump between 2020 and 2021 as far as your cash on hand?
We didn't go to any meetings.
Oh, really?
No
So you said
application
no
fees,
expenses.
no, hotels was a big thing, registration fees for meetings. Now that they're virtual, we don't spend, I mean, one was like $300, and we usually have a supervisor come, so that together is almost $600, and then you have hotel on top of that, and mileage for both people, so it can add up, and we didn't do that last year. They're offering it virtual and in person this year. Both ways you have to pay registration now, so we can't really get out of the registration, but we can save on
Even when you're
hotels.
virtual, you have to pay the $300.
Yes, yeah, it's a little ridiculous, but that's how they make their money, and they didn't make a lot of money last year,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And we got cut on the
Oh,
NPS.
so on the inside of your packet, the annual report, at the top it says annual report for 2019, it should be 2020. For cost share, I mean, you are both aware of how we do cost share. This year, WR, normally we get an increase, or at least it stays the same for our two projects that we do. We do NPS, which is mostly septics, and then WR, which is pretty much everything else. WR stayed the same, just a little bit. I think it went down just a little bit, but we did get a huge cut in NPS funds. Normally we get 12,000 and we only get 9,000 this year. And that usually helps with funding septics, and we normally fund at least 3. Sometimes we can fit 4 if someone only wants to pay partially. This year we're only gonna be able to fund 2, and we have 7 applications.
We got 7.
Oh, geez.
This is the biggest year for septics.
Do they give you any kind of reasoning?
No.
I mean, I would think if you're gonna make, that would be the last place, because I mean, that's talking
Every-
clean water and
Yes,
everything else.
Every
Well,
county
yeah,
is
and
like
then-
that too.
You know, everything else, you can cut something of everything else and then continue to fund.
And we
septic.
always use our NPS funds. We always use like every single cent. WR, sometimes we won't use 2,000, 3,000, but they'll still give us the same amount. But this year, every county got cut almost $2,000.
Does that come from the state or the federal state?
And, I mean, there's a need in mine, he's a sanitation person, and
Yeah.
he can tell you there were some pretty bad ones out there in the country.
Well, we're
Yes.
gonna talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about at the hall. But the thing is, with the septics, you have 7 people that are sitting there wanting all to be funded, and we can only do now.
How does funding the septic work? I'm not familiar with.
So,
Just from 30,000 feet, how does that work? How do you guys fund a septic? Like, is it a cost share?
yes, so what they do, the process for a septic is the same as what you did for like your windbreak. You came in, you applied, Then we go ahead and rank everyone, and then you can't do any work until you've been approved. So all these people are sitting, waiting until they get approved. We can't approve them until after July 1st. Once they're approved, they can go ahead and begin work, and we always give 4,000 unless they spend less than 4,000.
Yeah,
So
so it's, yeah, it's
it's,
cost share.
yeah, and the highest one I've seen was Janice Rose, which was this year. She was 10,000 something, but normally it's right at around 50%.
They're probably gonna be higher, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think?
Oh,
Yeah,
and
now it's up
this
this
year,
year.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
be twice that. or-
hike increase.
And that's just for, that's not for new septic systems, that's just for like,
No, that's a new, well, it's an
No,
existing
but
system that
if
was
I'm going,
failed.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm building a new house.
You cannot do
It's
It's not
an
for new
old
construction,
system.
it's,
The only
You got an
way
old house out in
you
the
can get
country and-
around that would be if there is a house on the property and you're wanting to build a brand new house next to
Tear
the
the house
property,
down.
you
Yeah.
have to connect that and you have to be living in that house.
I
It
see.
can't be an abandoned property that you're gonna,
But mainly it's for
houses
systems that have
needing-
failed.
Yeah, that are
out in the
flooding
country,
and
yeah.
it grows.
Running in the
Or they
ditch.
don't have
Yeah.
a system.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
issues. Brian can tell you
Mine
that.
from
Right.
that ran through the garden,
yeah. Hey,
so.
makes the tomatoes taste extra good.
But other than that, last year, we did the same thing where with soil moisture probes, we did soil moisture probes again this year. There wasn't as big of a jump for those because I was on maternity leave, so I didn't really get to put it out there as much as we did last year, and we had Rita with us too. So she was able to get that out before she left, but we did 14 soil moisture probes this year. We did 4 new septics, a brush management project, 5 new solar pumps and a new well. So solar pumps are usually always popular.
Yeah,
Obviously, we didn't do a windbreak this year, but you did plenty of windbreaks this year. Normally, we do get at least 1 or 2 windbreaks, and we didn't get any last year. There was one person that stopped in asking for a windbreak this year. And we've already had 2 applications for a solar pump for this year, another for a well. So this year's already filling up, so,
it's good.
yeah, I'm glad that we get interest and that people know about it, because there are some people that don't come into the office and it's too late for them, so.
Yeah,
When is the last date for your trees and windbreak stuff?
Trees and windbreak stuff, you
Yeah.
can sign up anytime. Our sign-up date is technically May 1st through the 31st, but usually no one knows about windbreaks, or they don't really think about windbreaks until,
Yeah.
winter time. They can sign up in winter time. The only problem is, it's the first Friday in December that we cancel files
Okay,
for any project.
so they
you
need to get in there before November if
Yes.
they're wanting to do anything.
Yes,
are a lot of guys just self-funding that? Because you've been planting trees like
Yeah,
crazy.
a lot of them don't qualify for
Yeah,
the cost share because they make over $1 million.
yeah,
But yeah, a lot of the ones I did this year were just self-funded.
yeah.
And we did have a board member retire, Joe Cornwell retired, and then Chris Staub came on in his place.
yes, Chris has been awesome.
Joe was on 30.
35 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was, he still stops in the office almost every day, so it's not like I don't see him. Still gives me a bunch of crap, but that's Joe. But other than that,
That's about what's going on.
we weren't really that busy with, usually we do county and state fairs, we help with those, but county, they had so many restrictions that we were just like, we're just gonna wait until next year to do something, and state, obviously it's canceled, so, we couldn't really do anything with that, but this year we're planning on bringing something, I haven't decided what yet, but normally we bring the trailer, the storm trailer, but
Do you guys do much with 4-H? I mean, I know the fair, but you don't do anything with 4-H groups or anything like that?
there's a conservation range youth camp that they hold, that we can sponsor someone for, but we've never had any interest in it. We usually put in our newsletter and sign up, I believe it's in March, the sign up is. And it's usually during the summertime is when the kids go out and do that, so I usually I don't think I put it on Facebook this year.
I remember when I was a kid 100 years ago in 4-H, out there at English Meadows, they had the soil conservation guy, and he had a deal where they would just push a core into the ground, then, take a plug out, and then let us talk about the root and different zones and stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, I'd really like to see a lot of 4-H stuff. I mean, our 4-H is having a hard time. I mean, I think Bryce feels the same way.
Yeah.
4-H is really important for our county.
Okay. We can do something, they just got a new soil, it's like a runoff simulator where they have a bunch of soil types and then they have the rainfall simulator and it shows the different runoffs for each soil type and what, I mean, I don't know all of the technical words for it.
About having a kids' ag day like Great Bend does. In fact, they were all set to go up and help and watch.
Yeah.
Get
I've
ideas.
gone and helped
And
with
of course,
Barton's.
COVID hit, so
Yeah,
Farm Bureau and us, we're gonna kind of cooperate on that.
yeah, that'd be cool.
That
Some
would
of the
be
implement
cool.
dealers.
They wanted just to send the kids to the Barton County one, but I think the Barton County one is a little too big already. And they didn't hold it last year, so
So we're
we have a
still,
brand new district manager out
What
there.
time of year does Barton have
It's
theirs?
usually September.
Okay.
I think you'd have a lot of people interested in helping out on that.
they did one about 5-6 years ago up at Tyler's place, Farm Bureau did, and I know the flour mill they had like 5 different stations you went to.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had a combine and had some animals and then the flour mill was there talking about the wheat and bread.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good deal and I think
that'd
we
be
need to
cool.
go back to it again.
Mhm.
So,
Do that
because a lot of those
instead.
kids in our school don't have a clue where food comes from. It's at White's.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, you were in high school, you know, we used to complain about people in New York and Chicago not having a clue where the food come from. I think we have people in St. John that have no clue
Mhm.
anymore.
Okay, yeah,
All right.
something simple for them to do.
So your request stays the same for 25,000?
Yes.
okay,
Well, thank you for listening to us.
yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Before they get gone,
Oh, no.
you gotta file a complaint with her? No, I just, with the new COVID monies for locality, for local, state, local governments, that was passed in, I mean, I don't know if he signed it yet, but if it's coming. I know a lot of it, or some of it was for, you know, counties and cities for sewers and different infrastructure like that. I just wondered if we get any, would there be any way to do a cost share kind of thing with them and try to get that out
You
of,
have to tie it back to COVID.
well, people were home and so their systems failed because they were home and
Okay. No, yeah.
overused.
We're supposed to
Systems?
get $800,000, Stafford County.
And we have to be able to tie it to COVID.
Like I said,
Everything,
if people had to stay home, they cook more, they wash dishes, and everything goes through a septic system.
Mhm.
If we could tie that where now they have 2, if we could try to get enough to finish out the 7 for this year, because I guarantee, because that's this year's full, next year's full, and almost full for a 3rd year out. And so what I'm trying to do is baby systems
Yeah.
for a year and going on 2 years, just because it's very expensive and it's gonna get
Yeah.
more expensive. So I didn't know if there was any way that we could do that to try and.
You know, when all the first funding come around, right off initial bat, it was, there's no way we can spend all that money. And it basically all got spent. We're supposed to get another 800,000.
just for Stafford County.
Yeah,
The cities are all getting their own, I
Yeah.
think the schools too.
But I mean, that would go with the county conservation district.
Yeah.
Right.
If we could.
As long as we
push
can
that.
tie every dime back to COVID,
And-
there shouldn't be a problem.
But I mean, that's, my thing is that, you know, restaurants were closed, so people were cooking at home, washing, clothes washing, staying at home.
These aren't
They were
systems that
overloading
were,
systems.
these aren't systems that were failing 3 years ago.
I can't tell
You can't, okay. No, as long as you can't answer to that.
I can tell you that they're failing now.
Right, I sat in on a conference call yesterday with Washington, and as long as we can tie everything back, we just have to document, you know, and tie every dollar back to somehow related to COVID.
Because that's like, most everybody didn't know what kind of system they had until they started failing. And then they got in and we saw
Yeah.
that some were
There you go.
cesspools, some were straight lines, some were.
Investing in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, making necessary investments to improve access to clean water, support vital wastewater and stormwater infrastructure and expand
And I
access.
know most of that is geared towards municipal,
Yeah, but
but
Well,
in
but,
rural, I mean, that's
Exactly.
wastewater is wastewater, I mean,
I think it would,
I would say, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
eligible projects include water, sewer systems.
Right.
and I'm just saying for that, just if she has 7, that's enough to do what they did and then get those 7 out of the way, because again, next year, I mean, it's gonna be,
I guess I'd
And I
have
think
them
a lot
fill
of
out the
people
form.
noticed
well,
that
she's already got the
they were
paperwork.
home,
they're all
they
kinda
noticed
waiting,
that it
right?
was bad
Yeah.
when they were home last year, so I think that's why I had so many this year,
We
because
just
they were
have to
paying
have
attention.
approval to her to tell him to.
Yeah. You might, to make sure you get it, as far as it is COVID related, you know, they never had any trouble with their septic system till 2 weeks after they had to stay home, and then after that it blew up.
well, I mean,
When are you going to get this money?
Not that they've been
Well, I
having
don't
trouble
know.
for 6 months.
I put in,
You
I
don't
put
know if it'll be this
into,
year?
we'll get half of it this year,
Just make sure
and
they know
then
what
the other
they're
half a
doing.
year from now.
Right.
So we
I
should
think
get
it oughta pass.
400,000 anytime.
Okay.
Do they have to pay taxes on it if they receive this money?
Us? No, see, what we would do is like do a,
Would you do an additional funding to our budget specifically?
we
No,
can't
we-
do that.
we
It
would
has to be
specifically
paid
pay
out
for it.
of that fund, so,
And this would just be a 1-year,
One-time deal.
Yeah.
yeah, that's.
But if it's,
state,
if it's free money and it qualifies,
yeah,
I
I mean,
mean-
what we do is we pay everything through our system, so we can track
Does
it,
that
so.
sound-
Okay.
However you would want to do it, do you want to pay the person directly? Do you want us to pay soil conservation? That's how we would have to set it up.
Mm-hmm.
So,
With the septic systems, they have to wait to do any work until they've been approved by the software. If we're not going through our software, then they could do it whenever. With our program also, they can't do any work until they've been approved or else they're not eligible. So they're sitting there waiting until July 1st to be able to do any work. And then once they've been approved, they do all their work, they send us their invoices, and that's how we pay them.
Okay. I
That's
would,
probably the best.
I would suggest we keep doing that,
Okay,
just so we can track and
Okay.
make sure it goes where it's supposed to.
yeah, instead of just giving them
Mhm.
$4,000 and be like, oh,
Mhm, yeah,
And
congrats.
so like there's what we give for the 2 would be 4,500,
4,000.
4,000.
We always
A
do
piece.
Just
4,000.
4,000 feet.
Yeah.
And so then, like say, she's got 7 already signed up, we already have the paperwork in and everything.
and we're gonna be able to fund 2,
And then if we
we're gonna
just-
be able to fund 2
and
of
say,
those.
and not,
Two
not let
and a
them
half.
just do the 5.
But if we
For a
don't
year, they're
spend that
already-
money and it looks like we can spend it on this, you said you're booked up for the next 2 years?
Well, if she can only do 2, she's booked up for the next.
3.
Yeah.
she's got 7 total.
Yeah,
And I have others
he's not,
interested.
he's
You have
talking,
7
she's
total.
booked up
Okay.
with the 7
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
We're not booked out 7 plus more.
Okay,
So what, she could fund 2.5, and then we'd have to come up with 20-some thousand to fund the rest of them, right?
Well, you're talking 5, yeah, 20,000.
yeah,
Or just under.
yeah. I would think that it would be doable.
As long as, like I said, you submit your paperwork and they approve it, we should be good, is the way I understand it.
I think you need to make sure you bring us a letter on each one that basically states, you know, they weren't having trouble before it was all. Because I can see how it would put, if all of a sudden everybody's at home every day,
Well,
It
that's,
puts a
you
lot
know,
of pressure on these
We had
systems.
college
And that
kids
was-
come back and live in, we had high school kids, I mean,
Yeah.
There's one guy
Kids
that
are
I
at
have
home.
in my packet that they started, it was probably in December when he called, right after everything was cut off. And he said, well, my wife has been doing a lot more laundry. And we've been noticing that it's starting to clog. And she can't.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's not going to work, so she's doing stuff at home more now. And
That'd be a great help if we could do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see why we can't, as long as we have the
Paperwork.
paper trail.
yeah, I'll get
Yeah.
with them.
if that wouldn't qualify, then.
But like I said, I have put the application in to get on the list to get the money, I don't know when we'll get it.
Okay.
We get the first half this year, the second half a year later.
Okay.
And so then, once we approve the we would just basically pay them the 20,000 and then,
However,
and as those people met their guidelines, then
They
they
would
would
deal
deal
with,
the money.
yeah, you would
Okay.
dole the money out as you see fit,
Okay.
I guess is the best way to put it,
I
because
would,
I
I
don't
would
wanna
give
do
you
that.
an amount of what you need to
Mhm.
send, okay?
Yeah, just a total amount of, say, 20,000, and then we would send that to you guys.
Okay.
And then you would be responsible for it.
Okay.
Which is,
That's nice, because yeah, she has the paper trails and everything, so it'd be very.
exactly.
Awesome.
I can't believe that's a program that would get cut and not expanded.
Yeah,
Because
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
have
that
to-
is a clean
Right.
water, I mean,
It's, yeah.
Yeah.
I told you that organization needs to be adjusted at the top.
Yeah,
Then we weren't given a justification as to why any of it was cut.
yeah.
They just sent it out and I haven't heard, no one has been emailing asking why it was cut so much. No one's complained about it. I don't know why, because unless we're the only ones that ever have anyone wanting new septics, which I highly
I
doubt.
can't believe
Yeah, I was pretty upset when I saw it, so.
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
that. You?
Start with the environmental service budget. The same as this year. Salaries, everything, I mean, and it's going pretty well. Like I said, it's great working with Danny and the conservation district. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, she makes it very simple. As far as
And this is doing water wells.
Just water wells and septic.
Septics. Okay.
Yeah, and that's as far as septics, and I charge, I don't know if I told, but I charge, for a septic, it's $75 for
Yeah.
a permit. That's basically because you have basically 3 visits.
Yeah.
I mean, a site, an inspection, while they're doing it, and then a post-inspection.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody's already, I mean, you go to the surrounding counties and it's $200, $250 per permit. I just don't think, I don't know, I mean, they're already taxpayers, they're already everything else, so I don't think putting that kind of a burden on them is anything. But, and so far this year, we've had, a dozen water wells done, we've done 4 septics, we've got paperwork out on several more, as you understand.
And on these water wells, you just go out and inspect them, and is that for just residential or every water
That's
well?
Every water, well,
Every,
yeah.
every
And
water.
you
well.
have to do, you have to do a site before they drill and then another inspection
Right,
after they drill.
Yes.
And you charge 75
I
just
charge,
one
no,
time?
for water well, it's $50. for
One
the permit.
time?
Just a one-time fee, yeah. And that's for basically because 2 inspections. It's
Yeah.
a pre and a post. And so that's how I kind of came up with it, was 75 for septic and 50 for water well.
Okay.
And
See, I would
that's-
think it would be 50 per trip.
Well, that is something that I mean, that's
Yeah.
something we could definitely look at. I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'd have to say, if I had if we needed more money, I mean, it's a $7,600 budget, so I haven't really thought it was probably too big of a deal. But if we need to do that, then it's
Yeah.
something we can visit, but.
Because if
it's
you
not-
have to drive halfway across the county and spend an hour doing it, by the time you figure wear and tear on equipment, fuel, and then that huge hourly wage you make, 50 don't even cover that.
That huge hourly wage. Wow, right?
Kind of a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, yep.
But- And like I say, I mean, I think it's worked out real well, except you work with the conservation district, done real well. The contractors in the area have been great,
Yeah.
so, I mean, so we haven't had any issues that I know of. I don't know if you guys have heard of anything or anything.
No, it's pretty straightforward. There's only a couple contractors out and about anymore, and
Well, we got 2 in Stafford County and then just the surrounding, but
Yeah.
they're all great to work with. And they all know what they're doing and they understand.
I was talking water well drillers.
So water well drillers,
Yeah, there's just
basically have Rosenberry,
Rosecrans,
Crescent North Side, and
Crowds.
Clarus and South. I mean, you had a few others that'll do. in
Does
between.
Clark's not doing anything?
Clark does a few.
Yeah. Do you go and inspect irrigation wells?
No.
Okay,
That's
just
through the
residential?
state. Yeah,
Okay.
residential, livestock, and there is an issue we did come up with irrigation, or not with irrigation, but oil. I get a couple drilling companies that still get permits, but they've also said that they have to go through state to get it, so it might be a double.
Yeah, see, I
kind
think
of
we were
thing.
going through the state for
Yeah.
ours.
And so.
Because
and
I know
they'll-
like
yeah.
Sterling Drilling's applying for permits
Right.
and it's permitted well. Because we drill one next to every rig,
Right,
you know, we don't pump water around. Because it's so close to water here, it's cheaper to just drill one. than-
right.
But I think,
But then.
you
it's-
haven't been coming out and doing those, it's the
Just,
state.
just Sterling.
Okay,
I do
okay.
Sterling.
Yeah, okay.
But I also ask them if they want to keep it, like if you want to keep it for a livestock well later.
Yeah.
then I definitely want it
Then
done
you
that
come
way.
back, yeah.
But otherwise, most of the time after they do it, then they just
Yeah,
plug it.
we
and
plug
it's-
the
yeah.
majority of ours.
So, and so I don't really know if we need to do that. I mean,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, it's not something that's gonna be there for a long time.
Right.
On your, the $50 for the water well and the 75 for the septic, then that just comes back into your budget, doesn't it?
I assume so.
I mean, where's that?
I don't
built
know.
in?
It was in, just in the county general.
I don't know, yeah, I don't know.
Environmental
Okay.
services is in the county general.
'Cause that's, yeah, it's,
It just goes in the county general.
So at some point, if Ryan needed something extra, could he withdraw that money out of county general? No?
you guys
Not
already
unless
given
he-
me my extra, helping me pay for the cars, so.
I mean,
That's plenty of my
that's how we
extra.
get around it.
Okay.
Okay, and then go to noxious weed. I asked for a little bit of an increase. I did put down a little increase in case there is a way of a cost of living increase for next year. Added a little bit for chemicals, which surprisingly, looking at the price list, have not gone up near what you would think they might so far. A little bit of fuel. Everything else pretty much stays about the same.
Okay.
So that's from 92,750 to 96,000.
How much do you have in your capital outlay fund?
That's a good question.
Let me look real quick.
I'm sorry, I didn't think about that. I was finally able to add that 18,000 selling the truck 3 years ago.
That's
Yeah.
just a mess, but we don't know how else to,
Yeah, we're not gonna do that again. It's
no,
gonna-
we're not gonna do that again.
I normally trade in, but
Yeah.
I found a deal, and so then I sold the truck on Purple Wave. But
Mhm.
I didn't, the budget didn't have that money come in, so we had to wait, and I did it after the budget for the next year, so I couldn't
So
do
then
that
you
year.
were 2 years
So
behind.
then, yeah, and so we finally.
We're not gonna do that
first year.
anymore.
Yeah.
He has 40,987.31 in there.
40,987. Do you see happen to making any bigger purchases?
Yeah,
next
how many
year or
miles did
anything?
your pickup have on it?
32.
Okay.
No, my pickup, my sprayer, good condition, Kubota, good condition, the car, so yeah, I don't foresee any
Yeah.
major.
Short of
Love our-
something crazy happening.
Love the building and the offices and everything, so that was a big one that I saved for
Yeah.
15 years.
Do you use that Kubota much?
Not a whole lot, it's my thistle, I take it out into the pastures for thistle treatment, and so I
Yeah.
don't use it a whole lot. Unless if it gets super wet for some lineweed.
Okay.
But I've been using it this week, just for, I'd say for my thistle treatment.
Yeah. What year is that? Old?
Do what?
My Kubota.
Oh, let's see, how could I find
It's
that
probably
out for you?
At least 2010, isn't it?
I think
Oh.
it's,
Or is it older than that?
it's on my inventory. But
It don't
yeah,
matter.
no, I mean, it's several years old.
Yeah, but the amount that you use it every year. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was getting ready to
Oh,
say.
yeah,
The
it's-
amount you use it every year, it should last.
Oh, yeah, it'll last me.
And Kubota's a decent enough brand. I mean, it'll be,
Yep.
won't show.
Air conditioner.
It is a 2007.
Wow. That's
Really?
more than I thought.
And it's got AC in it.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Seven. I didn't
That
know
was
that.
Then
very
why
first-
wouldn't it?
That was the very first year they put, because every remanufactured cabs that you could put on later, this was
Yeah.
the very first manufactured cab. air conditioner.
Really?
stereo.
So do you have to dump 2.5 gallons of water in it, like little tractors? Is it a swamp cool?
No, it'll chase you out of there, it's nice and cold.
Really? Okay.
Really? Huh.
But I got used to, when I had the four-wheeler, when you'd spray, you know, you could feel the, coming up over on you. and-
Well, yeah.
So I like.
If
that
you're
sealed
spraying,
cap.
if you're spraying that nasty
Like
stuff,
that sealed
it's
cap.
nice to have
Yeah.
the cab.
Yep.
But yeah, and any other
Okay.
questions on weed?
No,
All right.
thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Mr. Marshall,
And we just talked about cabs on UTVs.
Well, we're gonna wait on UTV till
Oh.
the end here.
So I thought maybe if their UTV was a newer one, that they could be a little smaller.
I think ours is older than that.
Really?
Yeah,
Couple things, we've got a truck sitting at Truesdale, down there at the mechanic shop from Maxville. It's got a cracked block in 2 places and it's leaking oil. It is a forestry truck, so we don't own it. Forestry has no motors for it. It also needs a radiator fixed because we can't find a radiator for it. We found the used motor for about $7,000. We found the new motor for $10,000. About $3,000 to swap them out. I found a couple trucks in Texas for $14,000. One with 11,000 miles on it, just like it.
so $1,000 more for a different truck versus putting a new
Right.
motor on it.
And Ben's how we don't own it. And forestry has no clue what we need to do about it. I mean, the truck still runs. It just, the cracks are hairline cracks in the back of the block, and so it pushes some oil out. And it happens to be where the pan bolts come up through the bottom and hold the pan on. So a couple of the pan bolts have come out. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the radiator out, send it to Ernstine's, have it fixed, put it back in, have them lock tight, JB weld the bolts back in the pan, and we're gonna run the truck until we figure out something different to do.
Did the radiator leak down and get hot, or
No.
just?
It's had an oil leak probably ever since we got it, you know, but it has just slowly progressed, and that's what they've come to determine. There's a crack about that far from the bell housing on both sides, and it runs up and down, and it must run right into the part of it where it has some pressure to it, so.
What's everything else like on that truck as far as, say you were to put a new motor in it?
So here was my thoughts on it. We have about a half a year until we own it, because after 2 years, forestry turns them over to you. So if we can get 2 years, limp it through, or, you know, get it through the 2-year grace period, then we own the truck. And,
Because they can take it back if they
right,
need it, right?
well, if it's not in use and it's broke down, they'll come get it.
Say we put a new motor in it now though, and something would happen, they could come get it.
Well, they won't come get it. I
Okay.
mean,
That just
They
doesn't
have-
happen.
no.
They have the right to, but.
they have the right to, but they won't.
It's just the idea of putting a new motor in somebody
Something you
else's.
don't own.
Right.
Yeah.
But if we had to, we could.
If we had to, we could, yeah. I just think it would be cheaper to buy a whole nother truck for $1,000 more than put,
Well, that's what I was asking,
And then-
if everything else on that truck is nice.
well, I mean, that's.
See,
the thing,
I'm
we
kind of
got
the
a good
opposite.
transmission.
I would almost rather put a new motor in it instead of buying, if you're buying somebody else's problem. Then
Right.
2 years
Yeah.
down the road, you're putting a new motor in what you bought,
Mhm.
then you're 28 or 30,000 out versus keep the truck you got, put a new motor in it. Then you got, if everything else is good, then
Right.
you got a nice truck.
Right. Yeah, and my other thought was if we did buy another truck, you know, it'd be just as simple as either swapping motors, which we probably wouldn't do, we'd just swap the bed over. And then save this one truck when it becomes ours as a parts truck for the 2 that we have in the county.
Yeah.
Because it'd have good tires, good transmission, air pots, brakes, I mean, just a number of things that, forestry tells me that parts for them trucks are hard because now, they told us not to expect any type of truck from forestry or military for probably the next 2 years. Everything's getting shipped overseas.
Really? Just sold overseas?
Yep. all the 5 tons, all the small LMTVs, all the tankers, everything. They don't get anything anymore. It's all being loaded on ships and sent across seas. So,
So what's this truck, what is this truck? Is it that Maxwell has?
Is
Is it just like the one we have at Seward? or
Yes,
red one on
just
Seward?
like the one at Seward.
And you guys have one, we have one, and does St. John have one like that?
No, just Maxville and Seward have them.
Yeah.
The one in Seward is the one we bought from Jerry Sanders, which we gave him 14,000 for it when we bought it. And that one come from Forestry Service. So, but I think for now, we're gonna try to patch it together, and, I mean, it's not like it dumps a gallon of oil out. You might put a half a gallon in it every month, so it's not horrible. We just thought when we were trying to get the radiator fixed, we'd have them look at the oil leak too.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
one other thing, well, actually two. So the old command vehicle is still sitting out at my fire station. It was supposed to be put on Purple Wave or something 2 years ago. Do we still want to sell that, or can I use it for training?
You mean cutting up?
Cutting up, burning it, a little bit of everything.
Is it worse than you think? I mean,
Well, here's the thing, it hasn't run for a year.
Yeah.
It's gonna need new batteries. We got rid of it because it had we were gonna get rid of it because it had tons of problems anyway. We've got a firefighter 1 class that could use it for extrication training, or even just vehicle fires, you know. I just think instead of having it sit around or putting it on there and getting $300, I mean, $500 or even $1,000, we can get $1,000 worth of training out of it. A whole lot cheaper.
Yeah,
It's fine with me.
it's up to you completely. I'm not gonna say anything either way. I mean, if you wanna, you know, if it would teach 3 or 4 guys or 5 guys how to cut somebody out, that's worth $1,000 in my mind. But I couldn't see it bringing much more than 1,000 even. And then you're gonna put $200 worth of battery, $250 worth of batteries in
Right.
it.
did
Just
it
to
have
make it run.
electrical problems or
It had
something?
electrical
Yeah.
problems, I mean, the fuel gauge didn't work, air conditioner doesn't work in it, I mean, it was just, it's like an 89 or 90 model, something like that.
Do we still have it on the insurance?
No,
Okay.
no. So,
Yeah, it's whatever you wanna do on that.
Yeah, that's fine.
and just so you guys are aware, City of Maxville's tossing around the idea of building a new station. And they're kind of getting some stuff together, and it would be something that the county fire department would go in with them on.
So would that be like a city?
It would kind
County?
of, city, county, yes, kind of like St.
Kinda like the
John
one
done
out
out here.
The
Okay.
city and the county share this one, and then the city pays us back a portion of the utilities every month.
Right.
Okay.
So, that's just something that's in the plans we're looking at. They do have a piece of property that would be donated to them to build on. It would actually be on Main Street there in Maxville. So as that progresses and I get a little more information, I'll bring it to you guys and keep you updated, and we'll figure out how to do all that. So,
Okay.
and Bryce, I don't know, I know Todd's seen this, I kind of done this. This is our replacement plan for our equipment,
Oh, okay.
spread out over, well, I done that in 2020, so it was a 10-year deal. And I've been in contact with people trying to get quotes for, this year we're scheduled to replace 20 air bottles. But I've still yet to get a quote from anybody.
Just everything's short of demand and can't get it, or what?
Well, I've talked to 3 different companies and no one's got me a quote back. Yeah, we can get you a quote. So I don't know if they're just overwhelmed or.
So these bottles are 1,300 apiece?
Well, that was a rough guess.
They'll probably be higher than that.
Well, I found some online. I don't want to go with something that we're not familiar with or that we've had in the past. I found some that are around $600, but then I found some that are $1,000. So We'd like to stay with Scott air packs because that's what or Scott bottles because that's what our air packs are, that's what our air systems are. And we can get one person to service everything. So, I reached out to them, like I said, I have not got a quote back from anybody. But I wanted you guys to know that this year, 21 and 22, those are our only big expenses, you know.
Yeah, so we're looking at 30,000 roughly for bottles, if you figure 1,500
At top end,
times,
yeah.
times 20.
Yeah,
That'd cover the bottles completely.
completely. Yeah, so,
What's this red up here? The SCBA?
so the red is actually when our SCBA bottles expire.
Okay,
So
so
this-
you're trying to get them
So
up
we're
there.
doing 20 this year, 20 next year, 20 and 23, and then by the end of 2024, when everything is expired,
Then you'll have all.
we'll have all new bottles.
Yeah.
Now, you bought some used bottles here a while back, and I think the bottles we had the 10-year life expectancy, and the ones we bought used had 15.
So everything has a 15-year service life. Every 5 years, you have to have it tested, retested every 5 years. So I mean, well, actually you do that twice. You do that when you get the bottle, it'll go 5 years and then you have a test done. And then at 10 years, you have a test done. And then after 10 years, when it hits 15, that bottle's out of service.
Okay.
They do make 30-year bottles, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's not.
The technology changes quite a bit in 30 years, even if it's good, it's a
Exactly,
dinosaur.
right. So that's why, I mean, everything we're looking at is still just a 15-year bottle. And like I said, I mean, in 2023 is when we'll start replacing wildland gear. And then we've got till 2027 before our big expense
Yeah, on the bunker.
on the bunker
Stuff.
gear.
Yeah, because that'll be 70,000 or something like that.
And when we bought them bottles, those used bottles, some of them were only 2 years old and some were 3 years old. So we actually have a couple of years before they have to be tested. And what it done was it took some that never should have even been in service, clear out of service. I mean, some that should have been gone 3 years ago. So,
So we're looking at 30,000 in known expense, then whatever else comes up.
correct. Yeah. The last thing I wanted to, this is what, so we've got a Bobcat UTV, and I think I'm pretty sure it was bought in 2006 or 7. And I'm just gonna be honest, it's worthless and useless. I mean, top speed on it's 15 mile an hour, and if it's wet out, you might as well leave it sit on the road or in the shop. Because it does not go good in mud, sand, nothing, even in 4-wheel drive. So I've been looking around, and I've come across a 6x6 Can-Am Defender 2021. They're about 5 months out. This is the total price without any, that's just a base model. It's right at just a little over 20,000. 4 to 5 months to get one if we order it. All they require is a $500 deposit. Now this stuff down here, a skid plate kit, which would cover the whole bottom of it, and the front and rear bumper, I mean, so you're talking another $2,300, $2,400. It's in
Does
our
that
budget.
bed have sides on it, or?
It's got, I mean, it's got sides on it.
Yeah,
I mean, they're
because
not-
I've seen them, when they had them at Hutchison, some of them had just a flatbed, like
Right,
just
right.
a,
This one, the one I've been looking at.
It'd be
this one
nice to
here
have
has-
sides on it.
It's got sides on it. I don't know if they're extremely high, but I think they're 8 inches.
yeah.
That one's rated at a 3,000 pound towing capacity.
What's the bed, did they say anything about loading, like what kind of a payload you can put in the bed?
Well,
3,000, no, 3,000.
Because that's towing, right?
that's towing. I think it's.
Because I was wondering, you know, if you could put a 250 gallon tank
I think,
That's 2,000 pounds of water.
and I don't remember.
Plus your tank and pump,
Right.
and guy standing back there.
Yeah. I think in there it says somewhere that it's like 1,000-pound weight capacity in the bed, or 1,200.
Yeah, which that seems light to me, because, you know, like when we're corning deer and stuff, we can put 700 or 800 pounds of corn in a bed of ours, and we don't have an extra axle.
Right.
Even if you did, I mean, 200 gallons of water would get you some decent amount of,
Well, and I would think that it'd have to be more than that, because I think we've got 100, in that Bobcat, we put it's got either 100 or 150 gallon tank in the back of it, and we fill it up,
it goes.
you know.
Because you're just spraying a wide,
Well, a lot of it's with like a nozzle, a
Yeah.
handheld nozzle.
Do you use electric pump on that or gas?
It's electric pump.
But you could probably put out a lot of fire with that.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're getting out ahead of the head fire.
yeah.
you know, I was thinking, so 1,600 pounds of water, and then just figure pump and tank.
I mean, I don't see why there's any reason that that thing right there wouldn't haul 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, if you did
Bureau
200
Wildlife have 3 of them that help, when they come up there, when their stuff was burning.
Mhm.
They had 3 of them, and they've got tanks, all their equipment, and I mean, they run 60 mile an hour down the road with it.
Yeah, I
loaded.
believe it. If you had 200 gallons and your tank and your pump and a 200-pound guy back there, that's 2,050 pounds. I would think for sure with 2 axles,
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why. I mean, you might have to be careful in the mud and stuff, but that would be the only one I would consider doing, I guess. I don't know that anyone else
I haven't
makes
found
the
anybody
dual
that-
axle.
that's got another 6x6. I mean, I looked at Polaris, and Polaris' site doesn't show anything.
They're an all-wheel drive though, right?
Yeah.
Both rear axles drive in the front.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, what I'd like to do right now is call them and go ahead and give them the $500 deposit, which guarantees that they'll place the order, and when it comes in, it's ours. Now, that's out of Stillwater, Oklahoma. But everybody else I've talked to in Kansas, they don't
Agri Center can't get one faster.
even list showing anything for a Can-Am.
Yeah, their whole, I was in there the other day, and their whole showroom floor, there isn't a single Can-Am in there.
They don't even
I bought
list
a
it on their
Can-Am
site
there
anymore.
a year ago, and there was probably 20 in the showroom floor. I mean, you could pick colors. And I went in there for some parts the other day, and there is not one Can-Am in that showroom.
Right.
And I think it's like that. I don't think Polaris has any in Great Bend either. And I don't think it matters what brand you're buying, there just isn't very many out there.
And they, that's a dealer out of Oklahoma.
Mhm.
Stillwater Power Sports.
Did you find out what they're gonna give us for
Or do they want it?
I figured that would be a thing, we'll just either do a sealed bid or a purple wave and let it bring what it brings.
our, okay.
Yeah, I just
Did any
said,
other department use it for anything? I don't even know what it is.
It's an old four-wheeler, but it only runs 15 mile an hour.
I
You
mean,
know,
top speed on it,
I don't know.
you about walk faster than what it is.
I don't know if the road and bridge guys,
We've used it, it's worthless.
yeah,
We've used it when it got wet and belt driven. It doesn't have power, but you can pull itself out of little bitty holes and stuff like that.
I'm surprised it's not over 80 horse.
Yeah. And that's their heavy duty design there, that one.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it have a bed on the back of it?
yeah.
Okay, could Teresa use it for yard work up here and haul stuff out to the dump?
Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking with,
Is that what 2 departments can split the cost of?
Well, she's talking
No,
about
I'm
the
not.
old one.
Oh,
No,
the
the
old
old one.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It'd take her half a day to get up there.
Well, right now we put stuff in sacks and we put it in that carport thing and it drives me insane.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean-
If it'll start and run, I mean.
For the
she
amount
can
that
do
it's worth, we probably ought to just keep it around. Surely either Road and Bridge or Teresa or.
Yeah, I don't really care. It just doesn't benefit us
The fire department.
doing what we need to do. I mean,
I think one of those can really bail you out of a tight situation.
you know that big fire up there by Quivira, we had no way to even go out and look at what we had because you couldn't take a truck or a pickup out there. I mean, you just couldn't see and you didn't want to drop off in the mud hole and then you're stuck. I mean, I paid
Yeah, then
enough
your fire
money to get the
truck burns
truck
up.
pulled out the next day.
Does that come with a winch on the front?
It does not.
I'd put a winch on it, and you need to have a windshield on it.
That was the other thing. And this was just a base model of kind of what it was. I've looked at adding the skid plate, front and rear bumper, and I was gonna put a full windshield on the front of it. And I think a front windshield full one is just $200 or $300.
Yeah, a few $100.
It wasn't bad. I just wanted to be able to go ahead and say, go ahead and
Get the
my-
bike coming.
Get it coming. You
Yeah.
know, because the accessories can be put on real quick and everything else. That was my thing. I don't want to wait another 2 months to get a final quote on everything and then we're cleared in it.
Are you thinking you'll do another electric pump, or are you gonna do a little Honda pump or something?
I think we'll probably do a Honda pump.
Yeah,
Electric pumps
That's-
just don't put out the,
that's
I mean,
what-
I
that's
would
what
much
I would
rather have
suggest, I
pressure
guess, up
and be
here.
able to control that than just a electric pump that you turn on and.
With a weed sprayer from the.
yeah,
Yeah. You know, when I bought my Polaris Ranger, I went tight, I didn't get a windshield, and I didn't get the back deal. So then when I got the windshield, you couldn't hardly drive it down the road because the dirt just fogs around and
Yeah,
comes in the back.
you need a back windshield.
If you're gonna spend the money in the front, get a back.
Okay.
Because I guarantee you, if you're driving through burnt soot, you ain't gonna be able to see nothing.
That or a split, you can do a, like there for a while in our Gator, we had a deal that the bottom 5 inches would flip up and then it would clear all that dust.
Yeah,
So if you don't wanna do it back, make sure your front will at least split up a
Right.
little bit. It just folds up on itself, you know, and then it blows all that through. Because you're right, it does vortex in there and
Yeah.
just cover you and stuff.
So, I mean, if you guys are okay with that, I'll go ahead and get a hold of them and,
Just so we don't get a phone call. There's no place in Great Bend you can get anything similar.
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
yeah. I don't think Polaris,
They don't,
I've
They
been
don't-
on,
I just wanna make sure.
I've been on Polaris'
they don't
site.
make a 6-wheel drive.
They don't make a
Okay,
six-wheel
I just
drive.
wanna make sure
Yeah.
that we're not taking away from a potential Stafford County person
Yeah.
that does sell Polaris.
Could you call them and
I'll-
say, do you have a 6-wheel drive?
Just to cover,
I'll call,
Okay, it'd save us maybe,
I'll
right,
call.
okay.
I
just,
think they used to make them,
I
They don't
mean,
make them anymore. They
but
used
they
to,
don't
but they don't make them
make them
anymore.
anymore.
Yeah,
just
They've
to
moved
check.
on to the more like the Razor stuff and,
you know, and you see the, like, track, stuff with tracks on. But I mean, the good thing about this is it'll run 60 mile an hour down the road. I don't know if you do that with the track vehicle.
you know.
I do think John Deere makes one, but
I'm
the
just saying to
speed-
cover
the-
yourself, I
Yeah,
would
the
ask.
speed that you're gonna gain with that, I mean, you can actually go a few miles down the road and not worry about it versus 40 mile an hour in a Gator, you know.
Yeah,
Right. I will do some calling and double check it.
just make one phone.
Yeah,
Okay.
Because I guarantee there'll be somebody mad. Of course, we don't sell it in Stafford County.
But still, they pay taxes here in Stafford.
the only,
I mean.
the only
if they're
downfall to
trees.
Can-Am is the parts are in Hutch,
Right.
and that's the closest you can get them, you know, Great Bend and Pratt there's nowhere to get parts for Can-Am. But Hutch's service department is good, I mean, you'll get along fine with
Right.
it.
But I would say if you call Polaris, there's none available, that's fine with me to
Yeah,
go ahead
okay.
and do the deal.
Me too.
Okay.
Okay.
And
We don't need a motion for that, do we?
Let's
No.
do consensus.
I think that's all I've got for you today.
Thank
I'll
you.
get my budget stuff around and get back up with you guys.
On your 3 different lines here, on your
Uh-huh.
money, is that the,
So this is what we budget,
Okay.
for every year, and if we don't use it, that's typically, I mean, we roll a lot of that. I think last year we rolled 47 or 48,000
In the capital outlay.
into my reserve.
Yeah.
So this just breaks down, so like this year, 20 bottles, it was gonna cost us $26,000, is what it was figured for 20 bottles, which left us 39,000 in that line item. So basically, and that's what this is, it's the current, you know, what we budget every year, the cost per year, and what's left over.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and like I said, I knew Bryce hadn't seen that. so
Yeah, I've got one of
Yeah.
those.
He wants it, he can have it.
Thank you.
When Marshall took over, we didn't have any kind of stair-step deal as far as,
Like
you know,
a
it was,
schedule, like a schedule, it just, oh, we need to do this.
it was
Yeah.
walk in and we need
Crazy.
$196,000 worth of bunker gear. Really?
And it was one of the deals that it should have been spread out over 3 or 4 years, that way it's not.
Such a big hit.
We had the money in reserve, which was a good thing, but I still think it's better to replace that stuff on the scheduled plan
Yeah.
than do it all at once. I mean,
Well, and
it's-
especially if the technology changes or something, you know,
Right.
say they come out with a different new air bottle that's way better than
Right.
what before, or bunker gear that's way better, I mean,
Yeah,
and then you've bought it all, and then you're not spreading it out, if something changes, that's way better.
right,
You can just go with the newer stuff.
yeah, so. but That'll work, thank you
Thank
guys.
you. Think we're ready, John?
Okay. Good morning. Morning, Commissioners. How are you all
Morning.
doing?
How are you?
Hey, doing good. Can't believe it's been a year already. I know, since we talked about this. Time flies. Let's go ahead and give you a few updates. We served 28 children in Stafford County this last year. And of course, COVID, as with anybody, it had a financial impact on our agency. We were down in regards to children served about 40%. And we also had, you know, some of our children are funded by Medicaid if the family qualifies based on their income. And normally, we average about 68% of the children that we serve in the 5 counties we serve are Medicaid qualified. So it's paid, a lot of it's paid for. So we just need to figure out how to cover the other non-Medicaid qualified, because by law, we are required to provide those services in the home of those children. But when it dropped by 40%, the Medicaid qualified folks also dropped to about 44%. And so then that left a lot of folks that are children and families that we had to serve and figure out a way to financially, you know, take care of that service, because we are required to provide the service. So it was somewhat of a challenging year, but when it all comes down to it, if you go back to the very last page, or next last page, before the newsletter, so what makes it work, this is what makes it work. One of the things that we did, I don't have one, do I have a picture of that? Do you have a picture of a young lady? No, there it is. Yeah, this young lady entered our services when she was and qualified for Tiny K services, and she's been with us ever since. We just recently recognized her as a outstanding performance award among the clients, because as I've mentioned over the years, is our main purpose is to help these folks develop and then have a job of some kind and help them vocationally. And so we got into the confidential shredding business, and we bought 4 small shredders that we actually placed in the homes, because they were a little confused and started affecting their behavior. And all these years, we've encouraged them to get out, go shopping at Walmart, go to the bowling alley, go to the swimming pool. You are as normal as everybody else. And then all of a sudden we told them they couldn't go anywhere because of COVID, and that really confused them. And we couldn't employ them, and they make pretty good money, we pay them minimum wage. And so what we did is that we got to give them something to do, because here we preached this to them and they've done it so well, and now we're asking them to stay at home. So we purchased some small little portable shredding machines and took that to their homes. They did it in their garage or in their living room, so they can continue to have a job. And so now we're back to normal. We've got everybody back and earning money. We've got, and these are adults that I'm referring to. And we packaged dog bones for Ferguson out of McPherson. We lined hoses for Flame Engineering. Their weed burner that you buy, those hoses that are inside that shrink wrap package, our clients wrap those. And so, yeah, and then the dog bones that Ferguson makes, and we actually package those for them. So great jobs, and they love doing it, they really do. And of course, we make the doormats. But the adult services, I think we're in pretty good shape financially for that, and also, the CDDO that comes in and asks for funding as well. They're out of Garden City. Some people are under the misunderstanding that they also help us fund or give us a portion of the money that the different counties provide them funding. They give us a portion of that for children's services. They don't. That goes to our adult services. So our sources of funding for children is Medicaid, Part C, and the school districts. And so we get money from them. And then, of course, the county funding that we request every year. So, but things have gone pretty well, everything considered. But also 3 years ago, I mentioned to you that we were going to get into the focused service to service children with a diagnosis of autism. As of January 1st, we are now in that service. We've got credentialed folks, and we are starting to look in at the county seats of each of the counties we serve for some space that we could have access to, and then we're going to hire somebody locally. We will get them credentialed and trained. They do, by state law, they've got to have at least a 4-year college degree, but we will then get them credentialed and trained to be what they call a registered behavior technician. So they are trained to help these children with a diagnosis of autism, and I don't want to have those children or require those children to be hauled to Great Bend. Even in Tiny K, we have to go to the home. In the autism program of age 3 to 5 or 6, we don't have to go to their home. And so what I want to do is set up some spaces in each one of the county seats of the 5 counties we serve where we have a local registered behavior technician that we hire. They live in this town, and then they provide the services under our supervision in that county seat city. So we're now starting to move in that direction and visit with people in the area and say, is there either the school or a church where we could use a space, and then we'll go and spend the money to hire somebody locally that will provide those services to those children with that type of diagnosis. Mm-hmm. So we're continuing with that vision, and it's going very well. We have not publicly advertised that we're officially in that business yet, but you will start seeing that. You will start seeing an ad in the local paper that we will be looking for someone to hire, that we will train to be a registered behavior technician. So you'll see some of that activity going on. In regards, go ahead, yeah.
Sorry, I just had a quick question.
Sure.
So just to be clear, you're looking for a place in the county seat, which would be St. John.
Correct.
To do
a space of about 300 square feet that we can use
and would
to
this
provide
be
the therapy.
And would this be full-time?
It would be a part-time to start off with.
5 days a week?
As the kids, 5 days a week. As the number of kids that need service grow, then that could easily go to a full-time position.
And you need around
So
300
part-time.
square feet?
Yeah, that's the amount of space we're gonna need.
Okay.
So if you know somebody or something, let me know, and
Yeah.
I'd love to pursue those conversations.
Yeah.
But you will start seeing an ad.
Well, with us being around here, I mean, we can help you.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Because I think it'd be a good deal.
Yeah, do you want the county to supply you the space, or are you guys looking for?
I'm looking for space, and it makes no difference if it's a county that's got the extra space, or a church, or the school. Over in Larned, the school said, we've got a very active special ed program.
Yeah.
We've got empty classrooms, plan on that.
You know, they're using that where Act 360 used to be. I don't know, does the bank own that building? SJM Bank.
I don't know.
They're doing a program there maybe once or twice a week.
It's that
For a few
parents as teachers, I'm
parents
not
as
sure what
teachers.
that is.
One of our kids is in it. It's just they go there and do learning activities and stuff. But that may be something to look into.
Sure.
I mean, I'm sure we could find
Yeah.
a place somewhere too, but I don't know, 5 days a week going to full-time, whether that building up there would work. But it might be able to get you started and get you on your feet and see if it
That would be great.
works. But there's probably some other places around town.
And you want
too.
around how many square feet?
About 300 square feet, so not a big space, doesn't need to be a big space.
Yeah, and that one's pretty,
It's,
I mean,
That's pretty big.
And it
The
could
big
come
back
with
office
dividers
is fairly-
too.
Yeah, and see, that's divided into 2 offices, I don't know, because I think that's all they're using it for, is that parents and teachers.
Because that back room that used to be Terry's office is about as big as this room, isn't it?
Yep,
It's pretty good size
Yeah.
back there.
but they're already, I think they're working, that parents and teachers deal is through the school, I believe.
I think it is too.
So I've never been to it, but they're kind of already working together to use that space for,
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the best interest of everybody to have something like that if you guys are
Yes.
wanting to do it. I
If you
think
find
that-
out that there's.
Yeah, I think if you guys are wanting to do it, we need to try to find a
Okay.
place for it
That'd be
because
awesome.
it'd be a good deal.
Anita's got my cell number as well as my email, so she can reach out to me and say,
Yeah.
hey, looks like we might have somebody, this is the person, and I'll come down and we'll have a conversation. It takes me about 30 to 45 days to get somebody, once we find somebody in the area, to get them credentialed with the state.
Yeah.
That's the process, so, yeah, that'd be great.
So should we go ahead and start looking for space too?
That would be great, that would be, yeah, super,
Okay.
so,
Yeah, we'll do some brainstorming.
okay, that'd be super.
Hopefully, if we could help you out with the space,
Yeah, that'd be a huge help.
that'd be a help.
So if, on that deal, if that's a, if this is gonna be like a shared space, if that person has a designated office for themselves, but then if they wanted to be able to work with, I'm assuming that they need to be able to work with the kids.
Mhm.
So if there was a shared area, but they were designated, you know, the school might use this area 1 day a week, and then they could use it the other 5 days a week, as long as they have their own office.
Absolutely,
Something like
Yeah.
that could work.
you bet,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay.
Which is fine. Rush County, that's what they're gonna do, is they've got High Plains Mental Health out of Hayes that comes down to La Crosse and provides services, but only a couple days a week. And he said, so how do you feel about a shared space? I said, I have no problem. We could use it 3 days of that week if they're only using 2. And since I'm in the process of designing this service, if they're using it Monday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, whatever days, then I'll use the opposite days to schedule these appointments for these psychotherapy and
Yeah.
support services.
Do we have any way of knowing the potential amount of usage of a place like this? Say you got your program.
Sure. There's 150 kids, the state won't tell me who, but there's 150 kids in the 5 counties we serve. And that's who they know of.
Yeah,
Uh,
but some of those are bigger. What specific counties? Barton,
Rush,
Stafford?
Rice, Barton,
Okay.
Stafford. and
So we could
Pawnee.
easily have 10 or 15 kids.
Real easy.
Yeah.
Real easy. The minute that we checked with the school in Pontiac Learning, the teacher that's head of special ed mentioned to a few people, and all of a sudden we got 5 families.
Yeah.
Boom. And we didn't do any advertising, it's like, oh my. We've got to put it in the high gear, and I think that's what we'll find in every county.
Yeah.
And then once we get, and we'll come out and we'll meet with the doctors, because it's the doctors and the schools that are the source of referrals, that recognize that, no, this child is having a learning disability, it might be an actual diagnosis of autism, but we don't assess them. We do. It's free for us to come in and assess a child on what their disability is.
Yeah.
And if we confirm that they've got a disability with autism, then we get them registered with the state and we start providing services.
Okay.
That's the process.
And if we had it here in our county seat, a family that was right on the border, Edwards or Pratt County or Pawnee County, if they wanted to come into Stafford County?
You know, that's
they
a good
could work.
question.
Or is this
I need to
just
check.
for
It
Stafford
would
County?
be just Stafford County, but I need to, and we are licensed and credentialed with the state of Kansas for those 5 counties and families in those 5 counties. I need to check and see, what if we have a family just on the other?
Because
you know,
like
what is
Maxwell
that?
School District goes down
That's
into Edwards,
So
Pratt,
they do.
part of their
Pawnee. So
referrals.
that's a good question.
Yeah, part of their referrals that they'll be referring to you very well could be an out-of-county
Yeah,
child,
county, yeah.
but they still go to,
See, if they're on
but
the
Stafford's
edge.
is all in-county.
Stafford's, they go like a half mile, just
Just
barely
barely
into Pratt.
jogging
But
out.
Maxville is the
you would
major
have
one.
some,
Yes.
I mean, you could easily have a
Well, and
referral.
you've got Great Bend School District that comes down into Stafford County.
But either way, you'd be able to service Great Bend or Stafford.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because you have both of
When
those
we've got
counties.
Fairfield that comes into Stafford County, that's Reno
Yeah.
County. So
Yeah,
Yeah, it'd be nice.
That's
if other
it'd be nice if
counties
they
could-
had some
if
leeway.
it's school
kinda.
district
Absolutely.
based.
No, that's a
or-
great question, because, And like Rice County, if they're on the edge between Stafford, right, they could easily come over here, that's not a big
Well,
deal.
Rice,
Because they're in the 5 counties we serve. But Pratt, you drop into Edwards or Pratt, and that's something I need to check, make sure we're not stepping on somebody else's toes.
And the person, if this turned into a full-time job,
Mhm.
you'd want them to live in Stafford County.
I definitely want them. That's what we need. I mean, we need to bring this service to the residents, and that's one of my visions and goals. And with the autism program, you know, the tiny K, we come to their homes. As long as they reside in those 5 counties, we come to them. But then they hit age 3, the state won't support us to go into their homes anymore. They've got to come to us. And so what I want to do is build a service system where it's local. And then the supervision, we got a BCBA, the supervision would come from our tiny K school, but the actual service and credentialing employee lives in the county seats of the 5 counties. It just makes it much easier, because I don't want anybody falling through the cracks. And it's obvious,
Yeah.
if we've got 150 kids that the state has identified, you know there's a bunch more, and they're not getting services. These are kids without, they're falling through the cracks. And so, and it makes it easier for them to come to a location in their county, especially the county seat, because a lot of times they'll come to the county seat for other services and receive this for their kid,
Yeah.
their child. So that's the vision, and yeah, we started talking about this 2 or 3 years ago, and so now we're there, and now we're starting to build the infrastructure to support it. And here on this sheet here, which is on the left side, to give you an idea of the effect of COVID and the trends that we've had. However, in 2021, the referrals are starting to pick up, because this is just in the first, in fact, a little over 4 months. But as you see, we were really growing in services. Back in 18, we had 185 referrals, 142 kids. In 19, it grew to 203 kids that were referred. 167 were actually diagnosed and assessed to have some learning disabilities, so we were serving them. In 2020, it dropped quite a bit, and that is mainly because of COVID. Now that we can start going to the homes again, this trend in the first 5 months is on track to outperform 2020 and find those kids. And we do need to get in front of the doctors and say, don't forget about referrals, because that's how we find these kids. The state doesn't find them. The daycares don't necessarily identify them. It takes the doctor or the school system, really the biggest source of referrals, to identify those children and then let us assess them. They will come into town to provide that assessment. So I wanted to give you the trends of how things were really doing well, dropped off in 2020, and then the other services that we're putting together. So and then something else too, which is very exciting. 3 years ago, we applied for a grant to receive a service dog. And I had no idea that in the service dogs for most of the country come out of Washington, Kansas, north of Salina. They're specially trained to work with children and adults. So we applied for a grant of $25,000. We applied for a grant, and there's a woman in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that how she heard about us, I have no idea. But she said, you know, I see that there's a grant from Sunflower out of Great Bend. They serve central Kansas. I'm going to pick up the tab for the 25 grand.
Wow.
They will have to pick up the tab to train their staff member to work with this dog and then to use this dog in our children's services, but I'll pick up the 25 grand. So we now have a new staff, 4-legged staff member called Star. That's his name, and he's done great. We had no idea. They told us, they said, you will be amazed of the effect this 4-legged staff member will have on these kids and their development. A lot of children with disabilities, intellectual disabilities or delays, they struggle with communication. And they said, you will find these kids, because there's just a connection between that animal and that child, that child will start communicating. So they trained Allison that, okay, first thing we want you to do with these children that are struggling with communication is bring that dog into their developmental process and therapy class. And the first thing we want you to do is Star will go over to the other side of the room and then ask that child, start working with that child to say, come, and that puppy will come to you. And man, it was no time. And that child that had spoken very few words said, come, and Star came over and sat right beside this little child. And then the excitement on that child is like, wow, my communication creates a response from something that I love. And that was just so cool. So then, of course, they then learned how to say sit, and that Star will sit, and then that starts the communication process of other words. So the effect that dog has had in just a short period of time, because that dog's only been on staff for maybe about 45, 60 days. So neat stuff there. So there's a lot of cool things going on. And also, as you see on the right side, we have got a translator that we are starting to grow our Spanish services, because there's a lot of Spanish-only, Spanish-speaking only families in these 5 counties. And we are bringing our tiny K to those families now too. And we're finding a lot of families with needs. So all this being said, it's been over 15 years, and this is the stuff that you may not want to hear because budgets are tough. But over the 15 years that we've been providing, we've been providing services for actually 55 years. But it's been over 15 years that we've asked for any kind of increase in our funding. So that's, if you'll notice in the agreement, for years you guys, in fact for over 15 years, Stafford County has provided $20,000 a year in support. And as you'll see here, I have increased that and asking for 25. So something to consider. If it's something you absolutely cannot afford, I totally respect that, because there's only so much money. We could sure use it with the growth that we're providing. And so you could just mark through that and the figure that you're comfortable with. But I am respectfully requesting an increase. So something to consider.
How many kids in that, or kids do you think you service out of Stafford County?
About 28 is what we had last year
28.
in COVID year.
Okay. And you probably usually 40? Are you down?
20 was down. 20 was down quite a bit. Stafford County has been averaging 33 to 34,
Yeah.
so down a little bit. With the autism, I look to see it go up quite a bit. I mean, I think it's gonna happen.
You can double that number.
Oh, yeah, I really believe that. I really do. Because Rice County is starting to see some families come forward. Barton County has seen some families just by, word of mouth, without any advertising. So, once we get in front of the doctors, they're gonna say, wow, we needed something like that. So, yeah, I think it could easily double. I really do. And we need to be prepared for that. That's what we're building now, is the infrastructure to do that.
And would that be like a after-school type deal, or?
It is, yeah,
So
and
it's
that's
an
why
after
we've had, in Barton County, we've had a couple of special ed teachers that says, hey, I'd like to do that after school, extra income for me and my family. I continue to do what I love to do, and I'd like to also do it full-time in the summer, if I can. And, we're building to that. So I look for some of the special ed teachers in some counties to say, this is what I love to do. And if I don't have to do something different to add to my income during the summers or even after school, this would be fun.
Yeah.
So,
And this would be for this autism?
yes, that's right, only the autism.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for.
Your other services won't, they're 2 separate deals.
That's correct.
Okay.
They are.
So will you be looking, if we found a spot for you here
Mhm.
and you found a person to come here, would you want the county to do any kind of cost sharing with you on that?
I am budgeting to pick up the tab on the labor costs. I am looking in each one of these counties, I'm not asking for the counties. I want to go outside the county and see if we've got some businesses or some individuals with a heart for children that, hey, would you sponsor the rent for that facility? I had a businessman in Lyons that said, I'll take care of the utilities on the building, because I think it's great what y'all are doing. And then the Rice County Community Foundation says, we'll pick up the tab for the rent. And of course, Sunflower, you're picking up the tab for the salary, right? Absolutely. So that's kind of the things we've already started. We really didn't know how all this would fall out, but with conversations that we've had so far, that's kind of the way people have stepped up. And I'd like to do that. I think that the additional 5 is enough to go to the county for in tax dollars. Because it's amazing, people react differently when you're asking for their tax dollars than they do if we ask
It's
for
a
their
donation.
heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, can I talk you out some support? And I truly believe that after 2 years, it's gonna be self-sustaining. And I know people say, yeah, we hear that from the government all the time. Well, no, seriously, that's what we wanna do. We're not government, we're a agency, humanitarian agency, and that's the game plan. Is that once because I think after 2 years, we're gonna have full-time, lots of kids, and then the Medicaid support I get through the autism programs at the state level will take care of all of our bills in that program, so.
So So do you need, will you get in contact with somebody else?
I'll talk to Chad. I'm pretty sure they own that building.
Okay.
Or they did at one time.
Do you have John's number?
Yeah,
I think it would be-
His card is
yeah.
in your
Oh, yes.
packet,
It'd be kind of
There you
nice.
go.
right down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, feel free. Write my cell number down. You got a pen?
Yeah.
It's 620-793-0311. That's the best way to catch me,
Okay,
because I'm a moving target.
that'll work good.
Okay?
Yeah, we'll try to find you a place.
That would be great.
And you,
Put our heads together and see if we can find something.
and you're thinking as soon as you, if we could find a place, you might be able to have somebody in here in 30 to 40, 60
Yeah,
days?
30 to 60 days would be very reasonable. It all depends on how quick we find somebody that wants to do this kind of work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like the idea of an existing special ed, because the kids are already working with
With
them,
teachers, that's right.
you know?
Yeah,
So it's
they're
not
qualified.
learning somebody new, and then, yeah, as
That's
far
right.
as qualification,
Yeah,
you would think they'd be able to pass it.
they would. The
No,
credentialing
no.
process would go a lot quicker because they already know how this
Yeah.
works. And they understand the importance of it.
Mhm.
And they pursued it in college, so it's their heart. So,
Yeah.
pretty cool stuff.
Okay,
Okay,
that'll work.
Good.
thank y'all very
John.
much. You have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Appreciate it.
So you guys over here permanently now? Is this where?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
How you doing, Julie?
Well,
Good to see ya.
Minutes to do.
Yep, I
Thank
got
you,
them
Nina.
Thank you.
somewhere. Thought I had them somewhere.
Right there.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the May 19th, 21 meeting.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes for the May 19th meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
And then Mike needs 5,
And then
then you can adjourn.
no action. Okay. I make a motion that we go into executive session for 5 minutes to discuss attorney-client privilege, and then we will adjourn with no action.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second to go into executive session for 5 minutes for attorney-client privilege. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thanks, Carol.